The time was right for somebody to experimentally verify the fundamentals of spirituality and establish the very essential harmony of all religions. Sri Ramakrishna was born on the 18th of February 1836 in the village of Kamarpukur, about 60 miles from Calcutta. He had a spiritual disposition from his childhood and was disinclined towards formal education and worldly affairs right from his early days. In his youth, he was appointed a priest in Kali temple at Dakshineshwar. God is worshipped here as the Divine Mother. Sri Ramakrishna developed a deep devotion towards her. His intense longing culminated in the vision of the Divine Mother. Sri Sarada Devi, popularly known as Holy Mother, was the spiritual consort of Sri Ramakrishna. She was born on 22nd of December 1853 in Joyrambati, a village in West Bengal. In due time, after her marriage with Sri Ramakrishna, she stayed with him in Dakshineshwar and served him as a devoted wife. They lived immaculately pure lives, and their relationship was entirely spiritual. She is regarded as the first disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. Once, Sri Ramakrishna ritually worshipped Sarada Devi as the Divine Mother and thus awakened universal motherhood in her. Sri Ramakrishna's strong inner urge impelled him to follow various spiritual disciplines described in Hindu scriptures and realize God through them. He followed the paths of Islam and Christianity and attained the highest realization through each of them. His spiritual practices led him to realize oneness with God. He then habitually lived in an exalted state of consciousness, in which he saw God in all beings. Sri Ramakrishna expressed the quintessence of the realizations of his 12-year-long spiritual practices in a simple dictum: Joto mot, toto pot. As many faiths, so many paths. As bees swarm around a fully blossomed flower, devotees now started coming to Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar. There was another group of young boys who later became monks. The foremost among these young disciples was Swami Vivekananda. Narendranath Datta, who was later on known as Swami Vivekananda, was born in Calcutta in 1863. Swami Vivekananda was a prodigy endowed with many talents. He had acquired a vast knowledge of different subjects, including Indian and Western philosophy and history. At the threshold of youth, Vivekananda passed through a period of spiritual crisis. He was assailed by doubts about the existence of God. It was then that he first heard about Sri Ramakrishna. One day, Vivekananda's quest for truth brought him to the doorstep of Sri Ramakrishna. He asked Sri Ramakrishna straight away, "Sir, have you seen God?" The reply was, "Yes, just like I see you, only more intensely." Under the loving guidance of his master, Vivekananda blossomed into a spiritual luminary. Thus began the pure, unselfish guru-disciple relationship between them. In 1886, Sri Ramakrishna passed away, leaving his disciples in deep distress. Swami Vivekananda took up the responsibility of guiding his brother disciples. A dilapidated house in Boranagar was rented. This house became the first address of the monastic brotherhood known as Ramakrishna Mutt. There were 16 monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. The monastic tradition started by them combines some of the best elements of the Eastern and Western monasticism. Its emphasis on service, universal and modern outlook, synthesis of yogas, harmony of religions, and such other features make this tradition a distinctive one. The Ramakrishna Mutt was established, but Vivekananda's mission was not complete. He heard the inner call for a greater mission in his life. After staying in Boranagar monastery for about 2 years, he set out on a long journey as a mendicant monk for the exploration and discovery of real India. During his travels, he was deeply moved to see the appalling poverty and backwardness of the masses of India. It was clear to him that the real cause of India's downfall was the neglect of the masses. After traveling through the length and breadth of India, one day, Swami Vivekananda found himself on the southernmost tip of the country at Kanyakumari. Here, he meditated for 3 days and nights, and the complete picture of his future mission unfolded before him. Vivekananda realized that cultural exchange between the East and the West was vitally necessary. India will gift her spiritual wealth to the West, and in exchange, the West will share the knowledge of science and technology with India. Taking the Parliament of Religions as a God-given opportunity, he decided to sail to America in 1893. His speeches at the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago made him famous as an orator by divine right and a messenger of Indian wisdom to the Western world. My ideal indeed can be put into a few words, and that is to preach unto mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. Swami Vivekananda spent nearly 3 years in USA and England, spreading the spiritual wisdom of ancient India. In 1897, Swami Vivekananda returned to India. In response to the enthusiastic welcome that he received everywhere, he delivered a series of lectures in different parts of India, which created a great stir all over the country. Swami Vivekananda wanted to channelize this enthusiasm. He expressed, "My whole ambition in life is to set in motion a machinery which will bring noble ideas to the door of everybody." On 1st May 1897, the Ramakrishna mission was founded by Swami Vivekananda. Atmano mokshartham jagadhitaya cha. Vivekananda also envisioned to have a separate women's monastic order with Holy Mother Sarada Devi as its ideal and inspiration. His wish for a separate women's monastic order came to be fulfilled nearly half a century later with the foundation of Sarada Mutt and Ramakrishna Sarada Mission at Dakshineshwar. The Ramakrishna Mutt shifted from Boranagar to Alambazar in North Calcutta in 1892. In the year 1898, it was shifted to Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house in Belur. Belur is situated on the western bank of the holy river Ganga, diagonally opposite Dakshineshwar. It was Vivekananda's dream to have a permanent abode for the monastery and to set up a unique temple dedicated to Sri Ramakrishna, from where his ideology and wisdom would continue to inspire humanity. To fulfill this dream, he acquired a plot of land at Belur. The main site was purchased on 4th of March 1898. On 27th February 1898, there was a celebration in Belur. A procession of monks and lay devotees walked to the newly acquired site. Vivekananda himself carried the urn containing the sacred relics of Sri Ramakrishna on his own shoulders. The urn was ceremonially worshipped, and Vivekananda prayed to his master to sanctify the place with his hallowed presence for the good of many and the happiness of the world.